First of all, we've got a wagging tail means the dog is happy. Now this is really common. People often believe that their dog is wagging their tail and therefore that means that they're fine and they're happy with what they're seeing or hearing or experiencing and that they will be completely fine with it. There is a tail wag which is very friendly, but there are also tail wags which are like danger tails, as I call them. So they are more like swish swish, or like a cat tail. So if you're getting either of those, like a swish swish, or if it's just the top of the tail doing this, they can actually be signs of either high levels of arousal, concern about something in the environment. Sometimes if a dog has a dislike for another dog or for what they're doing perhaps, then their tail can actually do this as opposed to that full floppy happy tail wag. So when you're looking to see if your dog is happy and if they're enjoying the experience or what is going on, or perhaps you're training or they're interacting with a person or a dog, what you want is that floppy tail which kind of almost comes from the middle of their belly, you know, like it's a whole body wag, and their tail's almost hitting both sides of their bum and their thighs. That's the kind of happy wag that is a dog being happy. Dog tails that are cat-like, like I say, like this, a little bit swish swishy and swayy, or just the top bit going, or if you've got this, they are generally tails to be cautious of. So it can be as well, dogs can do their tails tucked under and they just wag a little bit. That's sign of anxiety, concern, worry about something. So it could be when they're being interacted with or when there's training going on. If they're not quite sure, you might get a kind of tucked tail that sort of wiggles a little bit under their body. These tails can all lead to further body language. You may get growling, you may get air snaps. You may get reactions that you weren't expecting at all because you think a tail wag is friendly, because that is what everyone's taught to believe. So I just wanted to clear that one up straight away. There is so much you can tell from a tail, and even just the tail alone. And this is why it can be difficult when you have bobtailed dogs. So there are some breeds of dogs who are born without a tail, like British Bulldogs. And there are dogs who are obviously docked or who were docked, more so previously. There is still some docking going on now. But so like Rotties have a little stump instead of boxers. They have a little stump instead of their big, magnificent whip of a tail. So you need to see that full bum wiggle to know that they're happy, because if you're just seeing a little movement or the stump's just moving, you don't know what it would have been doing at the top or what it's saying. So sometimes dock dogs can be harder to read too. Likewise, you get corkscrew-tailed dogs. So pugs are a good example of this. And you can get like proper wiggly. But if you're just getting like swaying on the top almost, you know, just little movement, it may not be that the dog is completely happy. So we do have a lovely load of breeds. So just be cautious with the tail. Happy, waggy tail, not always happy. Just make sure you're checking that tail is a happy wag before you carry on with what you're doing, or before you proceed in training, socialising, anything that you are doing with the dog. So that was number one. Number two is that your dog is stubborn. Now I hear this a lot. People often say, my dog is stubborn. And stubbornness, from our perspective, means that despite knowing what you want, the dog refuses to do it. So there's a couple of aspects to this one. So dogs understand what you have taught them in the context of which you've taught it. So if you have taught something in the house when there's nothing going on, that does not mean to say that they would understand it when you are on a walk, or when there's people in the house, or when there are fireworks going off, or when they're at the vets, because it's not been taught there from scratch and built up. What it's been is taught in one environment, and then it's kind of expected elsewhere. So that can be one part of why a dog would appear to be stubborn. The other way they appear to be stubborn is because they don't actually want what you have. The motivation for what you've got in this situation and this scenario for them is just, it's not motivating for them. So they actually don't really want it. So that could be, it could be food, it could be toys, it could be praise, it could be It could be anything, but if they don't want what you're offering to them, then their motivation isn't there. So it's not stubbornness, it's they don't want what you have. So there's, they're refusing to do as you ask, or they're making it difficult to do something because they actually don't want what you've got. Or likewise, if they don't want to continue with a walk, some dogs will sit down and they'll refuse to move. And people say they're stubborn. They're stubborn, just sometimes they don't want to move and they just won't go anywhere. That could be underlying medical problem. It could be association of being in that place before. It could be that they're tired and they actually just don't want to carry on. So it's not stubbornness. All behaviour meets a need for dogs. So dogs don't lie with their behaviour. So if you're finding that the dog isn't doing as you wish and they are appearing as stubborn, then you need to look at, like I say, your motivation. What's going on in that scenario? Have they been taught it to the extent that they would know it in all situations, or is it that that actually needs revisiting? And the main part to this of why dogs are believed to be stubborn is like the big point. Lots of dogs came from being workers. So they are originally working breeds, working types. Sorry, just got to move that. Working breeds and working types. Now, what that often means is that they are one-time event learners, because no one wanted dogs they have to keep reteaching things to if they need them to do a job. So if in their lines and in their breed type they were bred for a job, the chances are they learn something once and that is then what they believe forever. And it can be really quite tricky to change their mindset about something, or to change the way they feel about something, or what they believe they have to do in that scenario, because they are one-time event learners. So it's a brilliant thing to be a one-time event learner if the thing they learn is what you wanted them to do. If it's not, then again, they can appear as stubborn. We also have things such as breed traits. So types such as terriers and those who are used for bull baiting, bullfighting, they have to be incredibly persistent in their job. The job isn't done until it's done. So their ability to carry on and on and on and on doing something persistently, despite so much resistance, or despite so many different barriers and problems that they may come across, they will keep going at it. That's because that's what they've been bred to do for generations. So again, for us, it seems like they're just carrying on doing something despite the fact that you're teaching them otherwise, or despite the fact that you're trying to stop them doing it. It isn't stubbornness, it's what they've been bred to do. So for a dog to be stubborn, they would have to have a full understanding of what you want in each scenario that you're asking it in, and to want what you have, or to want what is occurring, and to then blankly refuse to do it. That would be stubbornness, but that's rarely the case. So dogs aren't often stubborn, and breeds are not often stubborn. They just learn in a different way, or they just need it showing in a different way. So stubbornness it always amuses me, stubbornness, because I've met many dogs where you would absolutely describe them as stubborn because that's the way that it appears. But if you look at which need is that behaviour meeting, then it changes your mindset from it being stubborn to it's logical for the dog. Not for us, for the dog. So number 3. This is quite a big myth. And I think this one is difficult now that there's more social media around as well, because we have the ability to edit what we want, the way we want things to look, and to edit out things that we don't want to appear. So the myth is that you can change behaviour quickly. So you can absolutely suppress behaviour very quickly. So suppressing behaviour is stopping it from happening. You can absolutely do that quickly. You can manage behaviour very quickly. So you can manage the behaviour not happening anymore. For example, if your dog is running off and jumping at someone and you put a lead on them and don't let them near them, they're no longer jumping on people. So the behaviour has stopped, but the behaviour hasn't changed. So it's the underlying reason why the dog is doing it has not changed. It's just they're prevented from doing so. Likewise with suppression. So suppression can come from some punishment training, where the dog is frightened to do it. So they may not do it anymore. But it doesn't mean that the behaviour has changed. It's just they're frightened to do it, so they don't. So behaviour, it is workable and it is changeable, but behaviour is driven by emotion. It's driven by the way that the dog feels, and it's that underlying emotion that needs to change in order to change behaviour, so that you are not having to manage it, punish it or reward it. So for the dog to be able to do to stop a behaviour or to begin a behaviour, and for it to consistently either be there or not there, you would have to change the way the dog feels about that thing. So the underlying emotion is what needs changing, and that cannot be done quickly. It's like trying to change a fear in us, or a real frustration that we have about something. You imagine something that frustrates you the most. What is it? What is the thing that frustrates you the most? Imagine trying to change that. It can't be done quickly. You can't do it, oh, well, I just won't get frustrated about that now. And certainly if it's a third party trying to prevent you from being frustrated about it, or fearful of it. I know I'm terrified of spiders, absolutely petrified of spiders. Even with knowledge I have about changing behaviour, it's very, very difficult for me to not be frightened of spiders and to not want to run away from them. So to change that would take a lot of time and a lot of conditioning and a lot of behaviour association and association with spiders, etc. So it can't be changed quickly, but it can be changed. So suppressed, yes, that can happen quickly. Managed, yes, that can happen quickly. But to change the underlying emotion takes time. So as I say, social media, so this is like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, whatever you like, whatever you want to go on, you can make anything look as you want it to look. Absolutely, it's very easy to do that. And you can skip out bits that you don't like and that you don't want in there, and you can add bits in there that you do. And you can just chop and change voiceovers and there's so much you can do to manipulate the way something looks. And that is why I think this myth is actually getting stronger, that people believe you can just change behaviour like that, or someone can just come in and change behaviour like that without, fall out with it. So, as I say, suppression, yes, you can do. Management, yes, you can do. But to change the behaviour, it takes time. So, number 4. You must treat all of your dogs the same. Now, this is for people who have multi-dog households. Now, I'm a multi-dog household specialist. I absolutely love working with multi-dog households, and now I'm currently in one as well. So the 2 terriers who've moved in, we now have a multi-dog household. People believe that if you do, they must be treated in the same way. So if one can go on the sofa, they both can. If one gets a treat, the other must get a treat. If one goes out for a walk, the other must go out for a walk. And absolutely everything is believed to be the same. And this is often where the multi-dog household relationship struggles can come in, and where behaviour problems can come in. Because, say for example, you are rewarding, like you got a bit of cheese out, so the dogs have come over. So you're rewarding them for sitting there. If you actually have a dog who's really, really impatient and they're whining and they're stamping and they want it, by the time you've got to them, what you're actually reinforcing is them coming towards you and whining and stamping, because that's what you're now encouraging through reinforcement. Whereas the first one who got it might have been sitting very patiently and just like, oh, bit of cheese, bit of ham, bit of something for me. So the behaviour that you're actually encouraging now in the second or the third dog is not the behaviour you actually want to see. Likewise, if you have dogs with different needs, so you may have an older dog and a younger dog, well, it's not always practical for the younger dog to do the walks that the older dog is, or for the older dog to do the social time and the mixing with things that the younger dog is. So you want the younger dog to learn their own confidence, to learn their own training and recalls and listening to you and mingling with things without the other dog being there. So they haven't got the guidance of the older dog. They haven't got any of the kind of traits that the older dog has. It's all themselves, and they're learning to find their feet themselves, and then they go together with the other one. Likewise, say like you have a dog who you don't want them, you want them on the sofa, sorry, but one of them has a joint problem, or one of them is that they guard the sofa perhaps. Now, there's nothing wrong with the dog being on a sofa, as long as you're allowed to sit on it as well, or as long as you can call them off so that you can get on the sofa. But say like they don't, it may not be practical that that dog goes on the sofa. So as long as they have comfy beds on the floor, and as long as there is time where you sit with them and they have the floor, then that actually could prevent a whole lot of problems from happening with the sofa. But it doesn't mean the other dog has to get off the sofa, because they don't guard the sofa. They're quite comfortable to just chill up there and let you sit down and get off if you ask them to, if you needed them to. So it isn't always fair or practical to treat dogs in the same way. They are not children. They don't understand fair and right and wrong and, oh, he got it but I didn't. You get the behaviour that you reinforce is a really, really, really good way of remembering what you're doing. So you get the behaviour you reinforce, whatever that dog is doing in that moment, or in the moment they believe food is coming, or in the moment they believe praise is coming, or fuss is going to be there, or what brings you back in a room. That is what is being reinforced. So you need to make sure it is specific for each dog in that moment. So for example, if you have one of your dogs who's chilling out and they're relaxing, I would go over and, offer them a treat, or a good boy, well done. It doesn't mean that the one pacing around having a fit in the garden is going to get one too, because they're not doing what I want them to be doing. So you do need to learn to treat dogs differently. So there could be many, many reasons. So you could have two siblings who you've brought up together, and there's nothing wrong with either of them, but they still don't need treating in the exact same way. Okay, so you still need to be specific for each dog and to do what works for them. Some of them need more human social time. Some of them have a higher social threshold, so it means they need to have more social time than the other dog. So them being out on more walks or meeting more people. One of them may have struggles when people come over and they need to be out of the room or out of the house when someone comes over, but the other one is fine. So you need to, treat them individually. Don't feel you have to treat all your dogs the same, because you don't. Individually works much, much better. And fifth, so this is my fifth myth, so this is my final myth for you for today, is that all rescue dogs are bad or damaged or have done something wrong, and that is why they are there. So there will be something wrong with a rescue dog. It's really, really a common thing for people to give up on dogs very, very quickly. Very quickly. Now, not everyone does. Some people struggle. Some people really put all their effort into their dogs, and they've got problems, and it's a last resort rehoming them. But so many people, the excuses that have come up in rescue worlds for why dogs have been rehomed is they no longer match the furniture. They no longer, what did I have before? They don't like my new boyfriend, so he's going to have to go now. You have so many ridiculous things that come up for dogs. It's why they get rehomed. And to be honest, everyone wants a puppy because they believe that they can put their imprint on a puppy and therefore the puppy will be absolutely fine. Puppy's never going to have a problem because we brought it up. It's not the case. So all dogs were puppies at one point. All dogs started out as puppies, even those in rescue centres. And to be honest, quite often it's the home that is wrong for them. And if they are looking for a home and they've been assessed and that rescue place knows what kind of home is going to be good for this dog, then I can always guarantee you will find a match for your home, because there are hundreds of thousands of dogs looking for homes, and rarely did they do anything wrong. Quite often it's very situational and it's circumstances, and sometimes people's circumstances change. They just absolutely can't keep their dog anymore and they're gutted about it, and the dog's lovely, beautiful, lovely temperament, and they're fantastic with everything. So there is a huge myth that all rescue dogs are bad and damaged, and there's something wrong with them all. And for some of them there are. Sometimes there is behavioural problems, or there are medical problems, or there is things that need addressing, maybe training. But for the most part, there isn't anything wrong with them. They just need a home. They just need a home that's going to work with them. So I really wanted to put that one in there, because I think people believe if they have a puppy, everything will go really, really well. And therefore, because we brought it up and loved it, it will be okay. And that's not the case. There will be things that appear. Genetics come into it, and anything out of your control can come into it as well. And these can cause problems that you may or may not be able to handle, and you may or may not be able to live with given circumstances. So yeah, dogs in rescues, they're not all bad. They're not all bad, and they're not all damaged. So I really just wanted to share 5 myths today. I wasn't going to go into a huge, great big one, because I think 5 at a time is enough to digest, enough to keep interest.